so they could do it to their kids. Second season, we got a script from a wonderful science fiction writer named Theodore Sturgeon. It was really very, very beautiful poetic script. It was called Amok Time. And in that script, the words "live long and prosper" were written and spoken for the first time. And I was particularly excited on my game about this episode because we're going to Vulcan. We're going to see the planet. We're going to see other Vulcans for the first time ever. So I've got to really be ready to look for opportunities here and to develop the story of the Vulcan culture. So we land on the planet. Spock has to go home, as you recall, because he's in heat. It happens once every 7 years. And while we're waiting for her, it's really quite an event. Anyway, so we land on the planet, and here comes this procession out from the city to greet us, and leading the procession is a lady being carried in a sedan chair, wonderful actress playing this character called T'Pau. The actress is seated aloft of being his actress. Great dignity, great power in a very quiet way. And they set her down, and I'm supposed to come and say hello. She says, "Welcome home, Spock." And I don't remember what I said. It's nice to be here, or whatever. I'm not sure what I said exactly. But I said to the director, I think we have to, let's take a minute here. We have to figure out what Vulcans do when they greet each other. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, humans shake hands, right? Asian people bow to each other. Military people salute each other. What do Vulcans do?" So he said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" So I reached back into my Jewish heritage. When I was a kid, about 8 or 9 years old, I went to the synagogue with my parents, with my family. And I'm sitting in the men's section with my grandfather, my father, and my brother, myself. And there comes a moment in the service where the congregation is blessed by these gentlemen who are known as Kohanim. They are members of the priestly tribe of the Hebrews. And they bless the congregation with a blessing that's in the Old and the New Testament. In English, it's "May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord cause his countenance to shine upon you. May the Lord turn his graciousness unto you and grant you peace." So these guys get up there, and they're going to do this benediction. My dad says to me, "Don't look." I snuck a peek. And I see people got their eyes covered with their hands, got their prayer shawls over their heads. And here's these guys up there facing us, and they've got their prayer shawls over their heads. And they're screaming and shouting like a revival meeting. They're in ecstasy, and they're shouting this prayer in Hebrew. And as they're shouting this prayer and their heads are covered, you can imagine the scene. They got their hands out like this over the congregation, like that. And they're shouting this prayer. And I was mesmerized. I thought, wow, this is very cool. Something's going on here. And I started working on being able to do that. I spent years, diligent practice and self-denial to learn how to do that. I could do it any place, right hand, left hand, anytime. I had no idea that it might come in handy someday. I later learned, I didn't know why they were doing it. I later learned this is the shape of a Hebrew letter. The letter is called Shin. It's the first letter in the word Shalom, which means peace in Hebrew. So it's an important letter in the Hebrew language. And many years after that, I've learned the reason we cover our eyes and don't look is because the belief is that during that blessing, the Shekinah also starts with a Shin. The Shekinah, that's the name of the feminine aspect of God, comes into the sanctuary to bless the congregation. And she's a deity. You don't want to see the light that comes off of her because it could be very damaging to a human. So that's why you cover yourself, to cover your eyes, to protect yourself. Anyway, I said to the director, "How about if Vulcans do this?" He said, "Okay." So we went to see Vilafsky and explained to her, "Leonard will do this as he approaches you, and you will return it." And she said, "I can't." not spent the years of diligent practice. But we managed to get it figured out. She hid her right hand and held it in shape with her left hand. And when I raised my hand, she was ready. She raised hers, and that's how we got it into the show. It was a hit immediately. People started doing that to me on the street. Kids, truck drivers, policemen, waiters in restaurants. Hey, Spock! Hey, Spock! So it took hold, and it was very, very gratifying. This is a photograph of me demonstrating with a prayer shawl what it was that I saw as a kid. And this is a photograph that was taken that day on the set, the day we shot that episode. That's what that photograph is from. I signed some of these earlier this morning. It's still a very, very popular photograph. It's the first time that gesture was introduced in a still film. This is my son and I. He was visiting me on the set that day, and the makeup department took him in, unbeknownst to me, and they put ears on it. He came out on the bridge. He's a great guy. He's teaching acting and directing in Los Angeles. His name is Adam, and he's a wonderful son. So we were off and running. We were doing the show, and shortly after the show went on the air, the fan mail became a problem. It started out with they brought me a little batch of mail. Said, "You got some fan letters?" "Oh, terrific. Okay, I'll answer those." And I sat down and wrote thank you notes and signed photographs and sent them off in the mail. And then a stack like that came and I thought, "Oh, well, okay, I'll do it during lunch while I'm having a sandwich. I'll do that." And then it was impossible. It came in sacks. I mean, seriously, big sacks of mail were coming regularly, and I couldn't take care of it myself. So I asked the studio if they would help me with the postage and the photographs that all were getting costly. I said, "Will you give me some help with this? Because after all, it supports the show too." So they said, "Okay." And then I got this letter from management. They said, "Dear Leonard, for the past several weeks we've been consulted with respect to the operation in regard to your personally handling of fan mail. I have iterated myself many times with regard to the agreement that I made with respect to our obligations to you in this connection. For purposes of clarification, we would like to iterate the agreement that was made. In addition to your compensation, we agreed to pay you $100 toward your secretary and equipment needs for your personally handling the fan mail." That's $100 per episode. "It is not intended, nor was it specifically agreed, that we would furnish you with pens, pencils, etc. which we assumed you would furnish yourself." So the next day I sent back, I think a memo like that calls for an answer. Next day I sent back a memo and I said, "Dear Ed, thank you very much for taking the time to send me your memo clarifying our agreement as regards to fan mail supplies, etc. I hasten to assure you that we will no longer need to make requests in this area for some time, since my secretary and I have gone to various offices around the studio and we've managed to steal all the vendors."